Afternoon, everyone. Today is January 19th. It is currently 4:16 p.m. and we're here at the Tinian Public Library in Tinian, and with five members present here this afternoon, that that constitutes a quorum to proceed with today's public hearing. So therefore, I call this meeting to order. Um, Rather than calling roll, I'll introduce the members of the committee, and we'll start off to my far left. We have uh, Senator Carl King Neighbors, representing the island of Tinian and Aguigan. We have Senator Dennis Mendiola from the island of Rota. I am the chair for Fiscal Affairs Committee, Donald Magnolia. And to my right is our vice chair, Senator Karina Magofnia from the island of Saipan, and Senator Selena Babauta, also from the island of Saipan. Senator Poe is absent and is hereby excused. And so, members, moving along, can I get a motion to adopt today's agenda?
Second.
All right. Any objections? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We now move on to the next item, which is public comments on the referred legislation that we have in front of you. We have copies available for members of the public. We are going to discuss five tax bills. My apologies for the late notice, but we did add on a House bill that was recently passed in the House last Friday. However, we did meet the 72-hour notice, and so it is included in our agenda today. Copy of that bill is also available for any member of the public. We've invited public and private entities to testify before the committee, and so we will invite those individuals to come before the committee, and then we'll open the floor to the general public. We ask that you keep your responses to limit. We're limiting responses to 5 minutes, and what it looks like we have just enough people to go past that 5 minutes, and so I'll give you that leeway. You can also submit written comments to any of the LB staff. And just to introduce them, we have our IT manager, Jonathan Diaz, our legal counsel here, Joe Bermudez, our legislative assistant, Jolynn Tagleball, and our sergeant at arms, Ben Terlahi, and our fiscal analyst, Dave Demapon. Just to briefly summarize the bills that will be up for discussion in today's public hearing. We have House Bill 23-07. Now, this isn't in any of the online publication. This is a proposed legislation that the Senate committee has been working on that we are hoping to go off of. If those are the comments you have for today. If not, if you are commenting on the original version that was passed by the House, we can include those comments into our record for deliberation. That is the House Bill 2307, which is to amend 4 CMC Section 1401D to increase, to properly tax tobacco products. And just to sum it up, currently cigarettes, the 20-pack cigarettes are taxed at $3.75 a pack. The proposal is to increase it by $1.25, so that'll be $5, and then 50 cents a year for the next 4 years after this has been implemented. Now, of the taxes for tobacco, the proposal is to allocate 5% for the most part to programs and outreach, 2% for enforcement, 40% to group health life insurance, 40% to Medicare, and 13% to the medical referral program under CHCC, also known as the Health Network Program. The next bill, House Bill 2341, to establish an excise tax for betel nut, areca nut, and lime mix, or offwhoop, or wesh. The proposal is to tax betel nut at $5 a pound and lime at 10 cents per ounce. And the tax on those two items The proposal is to allocate 50% to medical referral and 10% to customs for assessing these fees. We have House Bill 2368, which is to a 10% increase on vehicles purchased by private individuals from outside the CNMI. And that the 10% of the taxes will go into the general fund. So currently the rate on vehicles brought in is at 5% if the vehicle is under 30,000 and 5.75% if the vehicle is over 30,000. But this proposed legislation will increase that to 10% just for the private individual. I believe the commercial vehicles brought in for commercial will remain at that 5 and 5.75 respectively. The other bill that will be discussed is House Bill 2378, which is to increase tax imposed on soft drink and alcoholic beverage containers. The current rate is at 5 cents per container for both soft drink and alcohol. The proposal is to increase that to 15 cents. So there's a 200% increase or 10 cents more per container. The allocation for those taxes would be 10% to customs and biosecurity for the enforcement, and then the remaining will go into the general fund. And lastly, the newly passed House Bill 2374 from the House is House Bill 2374 HD1 to impose a 3% tax on yearly gross revenue of construction activities in excess of 250,000. And how this would work is it will be 3% on all construction activities that, with the exemption that this 3% will not apply to residential housing and that it will not apply to current projects. If this becomes law, it will not apply to projects before being effective. However, if there's any change orders done after the effective date, then the 3% will apply to that project. And so with that, we've invited the Honorable Edwin Aldon, Mayor of Tinian. We've also invited the chairperson for the Tinian Municipal Council, Joseph Santos, the resident department head of the Department of Finance here in Tinian, Ms. Melissa Mendiola, the resident department head of Department of Commerce here in Tinian, Ms. Mary Suzanne Perez, and the president for the Tinian Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Philip Long. And so with that, I now open the floor to any of these invited guests to come before the committee. And then once we go through this list, the floor will be open to the general public. Thank you.
Hoppeday, Tiro, and welcome, Chairman Manglone, and Senate Fiscal Affairs Committee members to our beautiful island of Tinian. For the record, my name is Ana Marie Cesar Nicolas, the Vice Chairwoman of the 19th Tinian Municipal Council. I am present today to provide the Mayor Aldon's testimony, as he is unable to join us for today's public hearing. I want to express my concerns regarding the proposed tax bills before the Senate. As the mayor, I must ensure that the best interests of our community are taken into account when making these decisions regarding taxation and budget allocations. I understand that the proposed bills to increase taxes are intended to raise revenue for the CNMI General Fund to supplement the shortfall in operational funding for the FY 2024 budget and possibly FY 2025. I find it troubling with the lack of provisions in these bills specifying that the legislature shall appropriate the funds generated from the tax increases to be allocated to the Cinema General Fund account, which is precisely where the funding shortfall lies. Given the need for, for more financial support to fund basic operating needs, such as utilities to provide services to the general public, all three municipalities are in precarious position. During the initial deliberation for the FY 2024 budget between the House of Representatives and the administration, they clearly stated that the increase of taxes will assist the shortfall of revenue in the semi-general fund. However, with the bills before us today for public comment, it lacks the provision of assuring that these revenues will supplement the shortfall. Furthermore, language must be included in the proposed bills, allowing all three municipalities to acquire some revenues to augment the lack of funding for operations and utilities within our municipalities. It is also disconcerting that the bill's authors have not provided a precise estimation or projection of the total revenue the cinema will receive from the proposed taxes. Thorough research and revenue projection must be conducted to ensure that the tax increases align with the cinema's current circumstances and revenue shortfall. I urge the Cinema Fiscal Affairs Committee to carefully consider these points as you deliberate on the proposed tax bills. Our community relies on the prudent allocation of funds, and any tax changes must be thoroughly vetted with the well-being of our citizens in mind. Thank you, Dansizu Usmasi, for allowing me the opportunity to provide the mayor's testimony today.
Thank you, Vice Chair Sir Nicholas. And please extend appreciation to Mayor Adon for his testimony. Floor is open to any other invited participants.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Senator Manglonia, and to the rest of your committees. I am Melissa Mendiola, and I am the resident department head for the Department of Finance here in Tinian. As the resident department head of the Department of Finance in Tinian, my primary responsibility to this proposed legislation, if passed, is to ensure that the department adheres with enforcing its mandated duties with proper collection of taxes. It will be a decent financial opportunity for additional revenue to our government, and as a resident director, my concern would be if this legislation passes and becomes law, will there be portion of funds be allotted specifically for the island of Tinian, speaking under the Department of Finance, the Division of Customs and Biosecurity and Revenue and Taxation. For Tinian, for funds to for the funds that are being proposed under this legislation. As an enforcement agency on Tinian, we also collect such revenues. The revenue collection from such legislation would be a great funding source for the department and could avail funding for operational expenses since the department was not budgeted for operations at the present fiscal year. It is difficult at times when enforcement section is faced with needs that involve funding that the department lacks. Having adequate funding sources prepares for necessities in carrying out the duties and responsibilities and not hamper services they are mandated to provide. If given the support to avail such funds from these proposed legislations of increase of tax collection, it would enhance the support the department needs in assuring the deliverance of services are provided to the people and the businesses in our community. This is all I have for now, Chairman, and I request to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, RDH Mendiola.
Yes, okay. Sorry with my voice, but I'll try my best to speak loud and clear. Good afternoon, Chairman Manglonia, and member of the Senate Fiscal Affairs Committee. My name is Mary Susan Perez, and I am the resident head for Department of Commerce Tinian. As the Division of Alcohol, Beverage, and Tobacco Control falls under the Department of Commerce, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to comment on the proposed bills. However, the amendment to the existing law, as described in a proposed bill, only addressed the increase in tax, not enforcement. The collection of taxes is the responsibility of Department of Finance, as ABTC responsibility focus on prohibiting the sales of alcohol, tobacco to minors through establishment, retail establishment, restaurant and bars. My only comment I have regarding the increase of in taxes in alcohol, tobacco, and betel nut is how much of those funds will be earmarked back to ABTC for enforcement of the existing law. Currently, Tinian Department of Commerce has only 2 ABTC employees, and the Department of Commerce was allocated no funds in FY 2024 per operation. Without adequate resources to operate, how is ABTC supposed to enforce the law prohibiting to sales of alcohol, tobacco to minors? I think with these bills and any future revenue generating bills, a specific allocation to the municipality needs to be included in the law. What good will this bill do to my department if the law is passed and no funding allocation is given to the Tinian Department of Commerce to effectively enforce the existing laws? And if this law is intended to also serve as a deterrent to minors purchasing and consuming alcohol, tobacco, and betel nut, then it is proper for the law to allocate funds directly to ABTC, the enforcement division in each municipality, to ensure their mandates are carried out. Thank you.
Thank you, RDH Perez. It looks like the chairman for the Tinian Municipal Council is not here right now. I'm not sure if he'll be joining us later on today. And also, from my understanding, he's out on leave, and so we also invited the president for the Tinian Chamber of Commerce, but it doesn't look like he's here today. And so if he comes in later on, we'll give him that opportunity. And so at this time, if we can move, we will now move on to item 4, Part C, which is testimonies by the general public. We'll now open the floor to any other individual who wishes to provide comments today. And please state your name for the record, and if there are any particular bills you wish to comment on. Thank you.
Good afternoon. My name is Lucia Blanco Maratita. I'm looking at these bills as a resident of Tinian, and I've actually only reviewed it in the last few minutes. So if I misspeak because there are some other provisions in the code or that may be affected, pardon me, but I'm just going to take it as I see it at first glance. So with respect to House Bill 23-7, this is the increase of the tobacco. Just that real quick. Increasing cigarettes and I have no qualms about increasing tobacco. I used to be a smoker, so I used to think, well, if you just increase it so that I cannot afford it, I'll be able to quit. And it's not really the that's not really true. I continued, but thankfully it's been 22 years since I've smoked. So um, uh, increasing the tax, of course, will maybe um, produce more revenue that would, of course, be useful in essentially, especially data collection and monitoring of the tobacco use, and then, of course, additional uh, funds for any, tobacco related illnesses that can be used to treat those, and public education. So I support that. The House Bill 23-41. Um, again, this is the increase, right? Going through instead of per piece, it's now per pound. And with the huge amount of oral cancer that we have been hearing and seeing, I do have a couple of relatives that passed away due to that. So it is a increasing the tax on that vice. Then I guess uh, if those revenues realized from the increase in taxes used for, as it says here, for oral cancer patients stipends and other treatments, I'm hoping that would also be used towards those programs. The so I'm in support of that. House Bill 23-68. This is the increasing, right, of uh, tax for vehicles that are purchased from outside dealerships for private individual use. One of the things that is I'm looking to see what is the findings and purpose of the bill. Um, and really, all it is essentially just kind of protecting the local businesses. And I'm wondering, though, it seemed to me that maybe it, in support. I'm not supporting it uh, because of, I think that it could go the extra step. So, for example, how come we did not take a look at this issue and increasing the taxes, because it's going to minimize some other things? For example, the diminishing available road space for the cars as the population of cars on the road, increase. Um, it seems to be so. If you're going to look at that and reduce the number of cars that are on the roads, you want, of course, to support mass transit if you can, but also look at what does that cause. That causes more pollution, and also other effects of an increased number of cars on the road. Uh, so I would think that rational could be, all right, let's impose heavier taxes on, for example, luxury cars. And if it's a economical car, maybe you could look at, I don't know, 8 cylinders versus 6 cylinders. Those seem to give you more uh, miles per gallon. So that uh, gives us gives, for example, the individual, if I was going to buy a car, I might be more incentive, more there'll be more of an incentive to buy a more economical car than a big gas guzzler. For that matter, it might also in the end have a side effect of helping us with reducing cost, as things increase, including the price of gas on Tinian, and in the other islands, of course. So that was just going, that was my, how come we didn't go one step further? And I'm not sure how this is going to um, be a holistic development of our CNMI. I didn't really quite see if there's any other purpose for this increase in tax other than, I guess, to protect the local dealerships. Um, but anyway, oh, and the other thing too um, is there any other way of considering the tax, the percentage based on, for example, either the blue book value of a particular car? Because I noticed that used cars are exempted, right? So, uh, if I'm correct, used cars are this does not apply to used cars. Second.
All vehicles.
All vehicles, including used cars. Oh, yes, okay. So my thinking was that why not exempt used cars? So if you get used cars, is you're not buying new from the new market, but you're just essentially recycling. And so by recycling, you actually reduce the overall, maybe the carbon footprint used to create that, to make that new car. Just a thought. And then aside from that, the next one is so anyway, I'm not in support of that. The other one is 23-78, on increasing the tax on soft drinks and alcoholic beverage. I'm in support of that. And just because it's not a necessity in my personal book. The last one here, the 23-74, imposing a 3% tax on gross revenue of construction activities. Um, uh, I'm concerned about this because I know that it says, well, it's going to be in excess of $250,000. That's the revenue for those construction activities. One that concerns me is the apartments or similar activities are not exempt, right? And so if we are not exempting apartments, so that the increase in the tax would essentially also increase cost for apartments, rentals, and that such things. So right now we are probably going to see, of course, a rise in the apartments, and again, this whole issue about land being limited, and so one of the and homesteads being limited. So we want to look at other housing options, that being apartments building upward. Um, it would, I guess, my concern is that it would increase the price of rental properties also for tenants. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Blanco Maritita. Floor is still open to any members of present here today. All right, if there's no one else, it looks like also the uh, invitees are still not here today. And so at this time, we will close the comment portion of the agenda. Anyone who wishes to make comments on these legislations can email the address that's on the agenda, or share that comment with any of your legislators, and we'll include that in future deliberations. And so This will conclude today's public hearing on Tinian. We are still going to conduct public hearings on Saipan and Rhoda, with Rhoda being around February 6th. And then we may hold the one on Saipan before then, depending on the schedule of other committees. But that will be published on our site as well as our social media platforms. If you have any questions about any of these bills or any concerns you want to share with any of the members off record, we can stay behind for a couple of minutes and try to answer or hear out any additional concerns you may have. And with that, members, if does anyone want to add anything to today's agenda? If none, can I get a motion for adjournment? All right, a motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. This meeting is hereby adjourned at 4:46 p.m.